You are now tuned in to the Lineman Lounge, the world's thickest sports podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Evo.
Come on, bitches. This is the Lineman Lounge. I am Mike. That is Evo. It is Tuesday night. The regular season is wrapped up. We are on to Super Wild Card weekend, but we're going to break down all the games of this last week, taking a look at the Saturday games, talk about some Super Bowl brackets, talk about bets, how the season gambling went, and key players to look at for these weekend matchups. My man, Evo, how we doing? Welcome into the show, brother. Tough Sunday night for you. I couldn't make it all the way through.
I couldn't either.
Yeah, it was, dude, it was late. It was late as shit. Lions are fucking good. And there's talks they're going to get David Montgomery back. They're a problem. They're a unit.
Yeah, man. Look, we'll get into my thoughts about the Sunday night game. Obviously disappointed. Really wanted that win. The good news is that at the end of the day, the season continues on. And I do have thoughts about that game. Obviously, the Lions are a tough team. Yes, David Montgomery expected to be back for the divisional round. But while it was disappointing, I would much rather take that loss in the regular season than have it be week one of the playoffs and just be done and out. So get that out of the way. But other than that, I'm here. I'm doing all right, brother. As you know, family's going through it right now. We just had a lost fiance. Her grandfather passed late yesterday. Kind of the patriarch of her family, the man that she had hoped would walk her down the aisle when we do eventually get married, because she lived with him and her grandmother for a decent period of time, and definitely a father figure to her. The man that I asked if I could have her hand in marriage. So a sad day for the family. She is currently on her way with her mom to Colorado to be with family, and remember her grandfather. Retired Air Force veteran, a veteran like one of us. So it always sucks.
That, right?
Yeah. It always sucks to lose one of ours, but he lived a good life. He created a good family, very blessed to have met him and known him for the time that I have. And so with that heavy heart, but we will drive
Thoughts with
on.
the family. Right now, I know it comes for us all, but anytime you lose somebody, it's not easy. It's difficult. Um, Life is a blessing. I'm glad that you at least had the opportunity to meet the man and ask his for his blessing. I'm sure he would be very proud of you and what your fiance are going to embark on. Very sorry for your loss. With that, let's kind of transition. Let's talk about some stuff that might be kind of fun, maybe not so fun, depending on how the season wrapped up. We did some gambling. We did a lot of gambling all season long. We did some gambling this last week. Didn't go bad. Didn't go great.
Yeah,
But it didn't go bad.
it went pretty decent for you. By the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, so I'll pop it up there. On the week, I went 10-6. I felt like I was pretty consistent there at the end. 10-6 was kind of my mark. The last 4 weeks straight there at 10-6. On the season, it's going to put me at 143, 128, and 52.78% on the year. Evo, week 17 will go down in infamy as one of the more tough weeks that's ever happened. 2-14 really set you behind the 8 ball going into the last week. Finished the season 134, 137, and 1 at 49.45%. Listen, when you're talking about all spreads, those still are not bad numbers. I'm actually very happy with mine.
But if you look at where we were at early in the year, we were below 50 consistently. It was weeks where, I was like, I'm going opposite. Everything that I think, I'm going opposite, and it would come up with the same results. It was a interesting, tough year for gambling in general, not just for what we were doing, but when you go all spreads and when you hold yourself to the standard that we did, which is you are betting every game. Unlike a traditional gambler that can say, I'm not touching this one,
right,
or I'm only taking something that I feel good with, like an over under or a team total or something like that. You are constrained so much that to have that sort of successful result, I think is still indicative of us putting in the work. Like, yeah, my last week was pretty fucking terrible there. If it wasn't for that week, things would be looking a lot brighter probably and be above that 50% mark, but not by a ton. We're not looking at what we were doing last year where we're hitting
no,
60s. So either way, while it wasn't the way that I necessarily wanted to end the season, being below 50, I'm still happy with how things turned out for us.
Yeah, man. That I needed a couple of good weeks there at the end. I got that done. 52.76%. I'm pretty excited about. I was doing some additional research, trying to figure out how good did I do, how good did I not do. I think you need to hit like 52.6 something percent. Let me see if I can pull these numbers back up here on how much you got to do to be a successful gambler. It's somewhere in that range. I was right around there. I would have been a successful gambler this year, not by a lot, but
it also all matters on how much you put on the game.
Correct. So that's the thing. That's when these professional gamblers, they can live at this 52% mark because when they hit a bet, they're hitting big.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I'll play my small units, have my over 50% and be about my business and be happy with it. But hey, good year. We'll discuss what we're going to do next year if we're going back to any bet is open or if we're going to continue to restrain ourselves.
The wheels have been turning. I've got some thoughts, but obviously those will be behind the scenes discussions, and we'll come up with something new, different for us at least going into this next year. Because don't worry, we're still going to be betting. We're still going to be guiding you guys on bets. Don't think that we're calling it quits by any means.
Oh God, no. That's That's a good portion of what we do. So we will continue doing the gambling. But with that, man, great year on the bets. Let's hit some shit in the playoffs. We got a playoff bracket that we put together. We are going to do a giveaway for that. Rules will come out with the social media posts. So make sure you pay attention to the rules on the social media posts when they come out. But Evo, you got that bracket so that people can see the fucking great work you did on this thing, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So while we aren't going to completely go over all the rules right now, we're going to give you guys a general idea of what to do when you fill out your bracket, how to do it, where to do it. It'll be more defined on the posts for sure and go off of that. But we're also going to go over what's at stake for getting the most correct bracket and filling it out for us. So the Lineman Lounge Super Bowl bracket here. We want you obviously to fill out how you think it is going to go. Pay attention to seeding if you're a novice with these sorts of things. As you can see, for that divisional round, whatever the lowest remaining seed is going to be playing either the Chiefs for the AFC or the Lions for the NFC. All right. And then things will go on from there. Obviously, it should be pretty obvious the other two available teams will be playing in the other divisional round game. Don't make a mistake and have the Broncos playing the Ravens or something like that, and then the Chargers playing the Chiefs, because that would be incorrect, right? Because the Broncos are the lowest seed if they happen to beat the Bills this weekend, and so they would be the ones that are playing the Chiefs, so on and so forth. Okay, but when filling this out, obviously it needs to be legible enough for us to make out what team is what. All right,
Yes.
that shouldn't be too hard.
If I can't read it, I can't grade it.
Absolutely. In that championship spot where you put your championship winner, we want you to also put a final score prediction in there. Okay. Next to it, down below it, wherever, as long as it's visible, we'll understand, because that is going to help us if we do need a tiebreaker. We're going to be using that. But we want you to fill these brackets out. The intention is you can post it on whichever social media platform that we actually post it on. All right. Which will be X or Twitter, and the Facebook page. You don't have to go, if you get it on Facebook, you don't have to go to the X page and repost it there necessarily. If you want to, that'd be great.
One entry.
But there's only one entry. There's only one entry. We will be able to see if you adjust the post as well. So don't try to all of a sudden, come Super Bowl time. Oh, I actually had a perfect.
I know some of these guys that watch us were specialists. When they got out, they will try to scheme the system for sure.
Absolutely. We can see when things have been edited, so don't fuck around. But fill out the bracket. Make sure that you are subscribed to the Lineman Lounge Facebook page or X page, whichever you are posting on. And also, we are looking for you to be subscribed to the Lineman Lounge YouTube page. Also, whichever platform that you post that bracket on, either X or Facebook, we want you to share the post as well. If you've met that criteria and you have the winning bracket, Mike, what are we going to be giving the people for the winner?
We're doing a jersey again, man. Last year we gave away a jersey. Chiefs fan. He's been pretty consistent. He's probably going to hop in this one again. I don't know if he wants another jersey. I'm sure he wouldn't mind another jersey on our dime. So Levi, I'm sure is ready to go. But so like Evo said, fill out your bracket. Make sure you fill it out correctly. If it's not filled out correctly, you don't get any fucking points. I'm not your teacher. I'm not going to go back and help you work your way through it. Okay. If I can't read it, I can't give you points for it either. Make sure you put the points for the Super Bowl in that championship number as well. You'll share, screenshot of the subscription on YouTube, and then post your bracket. That'll get you involved. Don't worry. All of this is going to go in the social media post as well. Because at times we can go back and forth, bounce around a little bit. But I'll make sure that it is very easily understood on the social media post what you need to do. These got to be done by Saturday, though.
Before the start of the games.
Yeah, before the start of the games. Otherwise, they don't count. So
absolutely.
and
it'll be a jersey a jersey of your choice. We're not doing authentic or game worn or signed or anything like that. But if you have a favorite player out there or something like that, we can make that happen. We'll work with the winner to make sure that that request gets fulfilled and they get themselves a jersey.
Even an ex-player. We got Derek Brooks last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, brother. So we got some games to cover. We had a lot of football. Not a lot of it was meaningful football. Some of it was this past week. We're ready to break down this last week of football. The games that didn't matter too much. We won't go too far in. Maybe a couple of little things for teams going into the offseason. What they might want to be looking forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had our Saturday games. We already kind of went over there. Browns and Ravens. Ravens were able to win that one. Bengals, Steelers. Steelers come out with a win there, but they do not make it to the playoffs. The other things that needed to happen for them did not work out. Any comments on your draft position there for your Browns? I know we're not going to get super deep in depth into all of this, but Deshaun Watson reported setbacks with his Achilles.
Yeah.
You have fired certain personnel, and you now know that you have the number 2 pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah, so I'm excited about the number 2 overall pick. Man, I've kind of been back and forth on what I think we should do because trading back makes a lot of sense. But now that we have an idea that we can get one of these quarterbacks for sure, I also like that because we know Deshaun's not the answer. There's a lot of things that need fixed on this team, though. And it's not just the quarterback position. So trading back, developing, interior of the defensive line, getting some additional offensive line, that makes a lot of sense in terms of long-term roster building. But I don't know if that sells Myles Garrett to stay in Cleveland unless the Browns just go back up a fucking Brinks truck and say, hey, Myles, we're going to figure it out. But in the meantime, take a fuckload of money instead, which I think might also be part of the reason that some of the comments came out. But Myles never has been a guy that I think is concerned with money. Myles wants to play in meaningful football games. Myles wants to set records. Myles wants to hopefully win Super Bowls. I think that's what he wants to leave a legacy. So it's going to be a tough sell if not drafting a quarterback leads to Myles Garrett leaving. But there's no way to know one way or the other. If it all comes down to it and we end up with Shadur Sanders and Myles Garrett's happy, I'll be great on the back end. I'll figure it out on the back end, how happy or unhappy I am. I would be totally good with that outcome. I would also be good with trading back and keeping Myles Garrett. All of it hinges on whatever the fuck keeps Myles Garrett here. I do not want to get rid of a Hall of Famer in his prime because that's not winning football. That's not a winning culture. You cannot continue to build this team that way. You have got to get these guys secured long-term franchise pieces, face of the franchise type guys. But we have to find a guy who can do that at quarterback. If that happens this year, great. If it happens next year, great. There's some great names that are coming out next year as well.
Yeah. Now, do keep in mind, Myles Garrett just turned 29 on December 29th. So he's no spring chicken. Yeah, he is in the prime of his career, but definitely towards the back end, we could see. I understand that he's generational Hall of Fame, but human body is human body. These types of players tend to start to have fall offs, and not necessarily dramatic one either. I'm trying to pad this for you here.
Still getting better, dude. His numbers are getting better,
but we could be looking at here within the next 2 to 3 years of his decline starting, right?
Okay, give him a 3-year deal.
Well, okay, that's just I'm throwing out 3 years, but it could be next year.
Sure, it could happen at any fucking time.
Yeah.
At the age of 30, Myles Garrett completely fall apart. I don't think it's going to happen because have you seen that motherfucker? He's built like a Greek god.
For sure.
Absolute game wrecker on Sunday, basically every Sunday as well.
I don't disagree, but a tough decision could have to be made if you have to move on from him. And he's a guy that I fully expect that you're going to get at least 2 first-round picks for if you have to
If you
move on.
don't get at least 2 first-round picks from Myles Garrett, you have failed as a GM. And then Andrew Berry should be fired.
Absolutely. But look, there's a lot of holes in this team. You guys have a shitload of draft picks this year. And having that number 2 pick, you could push yourself into a rebuild with everything but the cap space that you need in order to start that rebuild off right.
Cap relief might be on the way, though, with setbacks and injuries and some and some insurance relief. That is weird how that worked out. That, oh no, there was a setback. Oh no, it's also insured against. Oh yeah, that.
Interesting. Either way, what your Browns are going to be able to do at pick number 2 is obviously going to be a big highlight for our show going forward, because being that you are a big Browns fan and we have a lot of ties to content producers who enjoy the Browns, we plan on definitely getting plugged in and having a lot of speculatory talk about that this offseason. And for the people, look, I am a geographical bachelor for at least the next 24 hours. I'm doing some house cleaning and things like that tonight, but I plan on finishing up my 1.0 mock tonight and hopefully getting it out to the people very soon. I'll be interested to get your thoughts, because obviously I've got to do something with those Browns at pick too. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of looks, how it turns out. It's going to have some other things like thoughts about some of the head coaching changes that are happening, potential some free agent moves. I'm not going to obviously do where every free agent is going, but a little, cayenne pepper to throw on there. So that's the hope for me after we're done with the show tonight, is to knock something like that out. Interesting note, looking at the Ravens, obviously in the playoffs, and they looked pretty damn good against you guys. Posted this on the Facebook page. I have not done the research to know if it's real or not, so take it at face value.
Here we go. Let's do this together. Let's see if you got McCocknerd.
Everybody knows that the Ravens win a Super Bowl every 12 years by scoring 34 points with a 28-year-old quarterback. 2001, they won 34-7 in the Super Bowl with Dilfer, who was 28. 2013, they won 34-31 with Flacco, who was 28. 2025 with Lamar Jackson, who's 28. Fortuitous? Maybe. If you think that there's a God out there, maybe.
I mean, it sounds a lot like mysticism, but I mean.
Yeah, so look, 2 times this happened.
Yeah.
But we're set up.
Trend.
We're set up for a third. So if you want to throw that into your bracket, I'm just saying, if you have the Ravens winning it, maybe have them winning 34 to something, because that might that might be a good play for you. Yeah. All right.
Wild would that be?
Yeah, that we'll look back on this show and waggle our fingers and think, wow, we had it. All righty. Anything that you want to go over with that Bengals Steelers game? I know that we already kind of tapped onto it.
No, not really, man. I mean, Bengals. Yep.
Romo has been fired.
Yeah. Well, I mean, come on.
Yeah, that defense was pretty terrible. Someone needed to go after that sort of a season. A lot of people respect Romo, and he's had good defenses. It has been completely eroded. They had very, very little talent on that defense, so it's not like he had a ton to work with. That being said, someone was going to end up being the scapegoat here. Expect the Bengals to obviously be pushing. If they can work a deal with T. Higgins and keep him there, apparently he's willing to take a bit of a pay cut to stay. How much of a pay cut? Probably not that much, but expect, minimal movement to really be happening on the offensive line. This team should be absolutely focused on that defense going into next year and how to rebuild
it. That word scapegoat's getting thrown around a lot on Twitter. Colts Twitter was in a fucking firestorm. Scapegoat was used in basically all of the things that I saw. Also being used out here in Cleveland. Ken Dorsey apparently is the scapegoat. I mean, there's a lot of people to blame for what happened with the Browns, but Ken Dorsey was definitely one of them, in my opinion. But yeah, there's a lot of people that should be fired in a lot of people's opinions. It hasn't happened yet. Some guys that I thought maybe had a chance. because it took so long. Antonio Pierce, finally that hammer came down. That kind of stinks. I like Antonio Pierce. I hope he gets another shot somewhere. He just didn't have anybody that could play fucking quarterback. But I mean, a lot of
we'll get into all this stuff and these thoughts as we get through these games. So moving into Sunday, we have the Panthers and Falcons, and Panthers put up another good game.
Bryce Young might be for real, dude. I might be wrong. I might be 100% wrong on Bryce Young.
Look, he looked cool, calm, collected in a big fucking game for this Panthers team. 25 or 34 for 251 yards and 3 tutties. Also ran for 24 yards and 2 touchdowns. 5 total touchdowns in this game. Huge game for Bryce Young. If I'm a Panthers fan, I'm feeling decent going into next year because the biggest monkey on your back might not be there anymore. Now you can focus on every other position on your roster that needs fixing, right? Yeah. So, look, I'm happy for Panthers fans. You gotta have some positivity going into next year. This game and the way that Bryce has been playing towards the end of the year absolutely should send you into the offseason with that positivity. So congrats to the Panthers. The Falcons, Penix did not have himself a bad day either. I think the Falcons should absolutely be stoked with the quarterback that they're going to be going into next season with. And now their issues are a lot more defined. You got to find a way to move on from Kirk Cousins and swallow that pill. You did it to yourselves.
Yep.
You paid him a lot of money knowing that he was coming off an Achilles. I said that he would probably take him to the playoffs and lose in the first round. Didn't even get there. But that defense needs major retooling.
Pass rushers. They got to address pass rushers bad down there in Atlanta.
And look, at 8-9, with a defensive draft that is very good, like especially along the lines, they're going to have opportunities in those first couple rounds to make an impact. As of right now, though, no coaching moves or anything that I've seen for these teams. Next up, the Commanders and Cowboys. Cowboys take the L. Commanders get the dub going into the playoffs here. Marcus Mariota, though, playing in that game and doing some decent things. Yeah. Which, good for them. Also, Trey Lance gets the start there for the Cowboys. We found that out in the middle of our show. But it was more than anything. We were kind of like, oh, you put the guy out, see what you got in him because you traded for him a couple years ago. Well, did you see that had they played Cooper Rush, he was due for a $500,000 bonus?
Oh, I did not see that. Of course, fucking Jerry Jones, dude.
Yeah, so if he had played, he would have had the $500,000 bonus. I think it was just a playing time bonus for starting games. And Trey Lance goes out there and they give the dick to old Cooper Rush. Thanks for your service, for putting up stats equal to or better than Dak. You got a penny pinch sometimes out there. But look, Commanders go in there with Mariota, win that game. Positive note leading into the playoffs for him. Cowboys, on the other hand, lots of questions about Mike McCarthy. A formal request has been made by the Bears to interview Mike McCarthy for the head coaching position. Finally turned down, yes, by Jerry Jones. I believe Mike McCarthy, though, his contract expires tomorrow, I believe. So unless they work out a new deal with McCarthy in the next 24 hours or less, he theoretically could hit the market and anyone could have the moon-faced soldier. If you really want that sort of guy to lead the franchise. I feel like there's a couple of these teams that are throwing everything at the wall that they can. The Jets, the Bears, for sure. The Patriots haven't done it to the same extent as of right now, and we'll get into the Patriots here, but you've got teams like the Bears that are going to do their due diligence and try to interview everybody that they can. You've got the Jets who are doing the same thing. It's not going to hurt to at least have that first round of interviews, I suppose. But honestly, it's kind of like, are you going to bring in the Jets offensive coordinator to see if he wants to be your head coach?
Which one?
You know which one I'm fucking talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm not bringing Nathaniel.
He's not worth a job in the NFL anymore, so he's obviously not going to get that look. But McCarthy has been a head coach in multiple spots. Apparently, some players want him to stick around. So, yeah, I'm not going to fault the Bears for doing the interview. But if they want to hire him, I mean, I'm for it. I'm for the
Of course you
content,
are.
and I'm for not bolstering the NFC North anymore, because they do have some good options that they're going to be interviewing there. Either way, it'll be interesting here in the next 24 hours or so to see what happens with the Dallas Cowboys and their head coaching situation, and whether or not there could be a major shakeup there down in Dallas.
All right, all right. I got nothing else on that, man. Cowboys stink. Mike
Yep,
McCarthy should be fired, but probably maybe won't. I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen there.
I don't disagree, man. They should get him out of there. Next up, Bears Packers, a fun game for me. Bears get the win 24-22. And who does it other than the kicker, who they would have beat him the first time, but had the kick blocked? Well, he gets his kick through the uprights this time. Bears win, Packers lose. Jordan Love has hand issues. Christian Watson out, torn ACL, bad knee
Yeah, it's
injury.
bad.
Which I think is going to probably be the stamp on his career, is that he is going to be unable to stay on the field. He is constantly injured, constantly having knee issues in particular.
That was a Mike Williams thing for a while as well. A guy who runs a really good deep ball threat, just couldn't stay healthy, problems with the legs. That Mike Williams had a pretty damn good career with all of that still happening. So I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's done on Christian Watson yet, but it's not looking great.
Well, the thing with Christian Watson is that I've always thought that he's been overhyped.
Yeah.
And now you have the injuries. You have a lot of other guys in that roster in the wide receiver room that are, not necessarily A tier talent, not number one guys, fringe number two guys, but you have enough of them with little talents here and there. You can get by with it without having a Christian Watson out there. It could be very derailing for his career there. And derailing for the Packers, who are going in now after losing this game to a very, very tough matchup in the wild card weekend versus the Philly Eagles, depending on what happens with their quarterback. More about that later. But look, congrats to the Bears. Super stoked for you. Got to go out there and find a new head coach, someone that can guide your quarterback into the future. And it'll be really interesting this offseason to see where they go with that.
I agree, man. I think that's going to be one of the hot jobs. They have some talent. Do you think that if you like Caleb Williams' tools coming out, you're not upset by anything you saw this year because you think it's probably the coaching that fucked him. I think that's the major consensus is the coaching did him absolutely no favors there. So people are going to want to go there. Now, guys like DJ Moore who are saying that I'm ready for vacation, some of that's going to need to be addressed in the offseason because it's going to have to be a culture change. That kind of shit can't happen. So you're going to need somebody in there who is a culture changer. Talked about Gruden. I think it's a pretty good idea for a hire. Packers, I mean, this game doesn't really matter. Jordan Love, he has accuracy issues when his hands don't hurt.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting to see how that game goes this upcoming weekend between the Packers and the Eagles. Next up, Texans and Titans. Texans get the win here, 23-14. Nice for them to end the season on a good note. But they are also going into a pretty damn tough game in this one. They're going to be going up against the Chargers. Texans have not looked good towards the end of the year. Chargers, however, are looking relatively strong, even going into Texas. It's going to be a tough game for that Texans team. But Titans, they let go of their GM today, Rand Carthen, out after 2 years. That'll definitely mold what they do going into this offseason because with the number one overall pick, they very well will be looking at a quarterback there at pick number one. I expect them at this point to probably do that. New GM with a 1-year head coach, a quarterback that wasn't his to begin with. It's not a new head coach GM combo. It's close though, and they're going to want to put their mark on the franchise, right?
Right.
You don't get the number one overall pick that often.
No.
So they're probably going to try to make their mark. It'll be interesting to see who they bring in and what sort of philosophies they have and what path they're going to go. Again, I have my thoughts on where they're going to go with this number one pick. I'll leave that for my mock draft.
Okay. I'm hoping that if they pick a quarterback, which I assume that they will, that they go with Cam Ward, the more raw, physically talented athlete at quarterback. I fear that they're going to be a little worried about that type of quarterback, though, based on the guy that's currently on their roster who puts mayonnaise in his coffee. Physically talented guy, but maybe not necessarily a quarterback. I think Cam Ward is a better thrower of the ball than Anthony Richardson, but I think that there's some holes in his game very similar to Anthony Richardson's as well. I like Shadur better, especially for my Browns, just because I expect us to go back to more of a wide zone offense. But it'll be very interesting to see what the Titans do. They have the number 1 overall pick. Ain't nobody going up there to get that number 1 overall pick. I expect them to firmly sit pat with a new GM. Young, so it'll be a second-year head coach. He'll get his guy. Makes complete sense. They go quarterback there. So, and then the Texans, we'll talk about them here in a little bit when we get into the games. They're in a tough spot, man. They've been in a tough spot for a while now.
Yeah. Well, at the playoffs, it's like a whole new season. Anything could happen. Who knows? Will Levis was informed in exit interviews, we will be bringing in quarterback competition. You need to be prepared for that, whether it is free agency, draft, or otherwise. So they have made it clear that they are going to be looking for a path forward at quarterback. That Will Levis is not off the table. However, there will be competition there. Next up, Jaguars and Colts. Colts get the win here, 26-23. I said that they thought that they were going to come back and get themselves a win to kind of wipe the stink out of their mouth from the game before, and they did, but not by the spread I was looking for.
No,
so
not
fuck
by
me.
3.5.
Pat McAfee's sweet, empty, bare as a bone. Joe Flacco has said that he's looking at coming back again and playing another year of football next year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens
Won't
there.
be an Indy. Can't be an Indy.
Yeah, but we had a couple moves here. Gus Bradley for the Colts defensive coordinator was relieved of his duties, which, again, you're talking about the scapegoat word being thrown around there. And then Doug Peterson for the Jaguars was let go as well. Two interesting things here. Steichen, and the GM in Indy are being retained going forward, right? Okay, I'm not sure about the GM. I like Steichen. I think you like Steichen, but they need some fixes there. I was never a huge Gus Bradley fan. He
wasn't bad because of Gus Bradley.
Right. And that's absolutely true. I don't think Gus Bradley is a bad coach. I don't think he's a bad defensive coordinator. He does not play the brand of defense that I like. He basically never blitzes. I like the blitz. I like the razzle dazzle. That's why me and Brian Flores go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Cocaine and waffles.
For sure. But Gus Bradley is out. I don't know that that's big enough, as impactful as a move as you need to help turn things around for this team. Realistically, they need Anthony Richardson to flip a switch and be like, oh, I can play quarterback. That will heal everything.
They need that Bryce Young.
Bryce Young didn't have a fucking problem hitting the broadside of a barn.
That's true. He had a problem getting around the thing so he could throw it at the barn.
Yeah. I think Anthony Richardson needs to spend the offseason with Joe Milton and get on some of that.
Look good, dude.
Look good. We'll get into that too. But for the Jaguars, yeah, it'll be interesting what goes on there with their head coaching search. I think that their biggest problem right now is Trent Baalke. They did not fire Trent Baalke. Trent Baalke, I've talked about this before.
Listen, that's not out of the realm of possibility. Did you see the interview that Shad Khan had with Baalke on the call saying, well, if the fucking next coach comes in and convinces me to fire this asshole, I will.
Yeah, and that's the thing is they have interviews set up with guys like a Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson will not go there with Trent Baalke. Ben Johnson has seen firsthand what happens when you let Trent Baalke be your GM. You go out there and you draft Walker over Aiden Hutchinson, and look at the disparity between the two. Walker's turned into a decent player, not a number 1 overall pick. Aiden Hutchinson, however, has turned into one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Ben Johnson's got to see that firsthand, and he's seen what's happened in Trent Baalke's entire career. He fucking tears teams apart. and forces good coaches to leave, like Jim Harbaugh. If I'm Ben Johnson, I'll take the interview, but I'm going to tell the owner straight up, you're bringing in someone else if you want to even talk to me another time.
Yeah.
Like, that is going to be the biggest barrier, I think, for this team going forward in finding a head coach that's worth a damn is if they have Trent Baalke in-house. So, biggest move for them needs to be moving on from Baalke.
I mean, I have no dispute to that. The fact that he forced Harbaugh out of the NFL. Which really pisses me off. But I digress. Ready to move on to the next game because we talk about somebody who not from Michigan. Never mind. That gone.
No. Next one up, Bills and Patriots. Bills lose this game 16-23. We had Drake May go in there just for a little bit, but then Joe Milton III pops in, a guy that we talked about in a little draft process. Has got crazy arm talent, terrible accuracy, but then he looks pretty fucking all right when he goes out there. Some of these plays, again, he looked like what we had hoped Anthony Richardson would look like. 22 of 29, 241, and a touchdown. One of those touchdowns did not count on a electric play. I don't know if you've seen the replays of it, of him just dodging dudes, scrambling around, spinning out of tackles, going to the sideline, and then firing a fucking rocket down to the sideline in the
frozen rope.
And holding gets it called back. But that's the sort of stuff that you wanted to see from Anthony Richardson. Didn't expect that from Joe Milton. There were reports out of camp that Joe Milton had looked good. They might have something there, at least as a backup quarterback. Like Drake May, we know is the dude.
Yeah.
What we saw from him this year, that is your guy going forward, and you're going to pour everything into him. But Joe Milton didn't look half bad. And Joe Milton playing good, also 10 rushes, 16 yards, and a touchdown there on the ground as well. They played good enough to get their head coach fired. Gerard Mayo fired right after the game. And this one, to me, the more I think about it, is the biggest travesty of these coach firings. A lot of players.
We've talked about this. I know it had to happen for the development of the quarterback.
I still disagree. I disagree on that because Alex Van Pelt, whatever he was doing, was working out with Drake May. You look at some of these coaches that we look at as Hall of Fame coaches, they started off their first year terrible, 1-15. And then they flip things around and they get good, right? Because they're able to build a roster. Gerard Mayo went into this year with one of, if not the least talented roster in the NFL and was expected to do what with it? Like this, the way that this team turned out at 4-13 is better than most people probably expected them to turn out. And now you're going into this offseason with the most cap space in the NFL, with a high draft pick, not the first overall, which might be why he got fired, but a high draft pick and the opportunity to actually build up a decent roster. And that's the thing is it seems like it was a punishment. But if Robert Kraft had taken a step back, I think he might have been like, this was the guy that we groomed for like 5 years to be our new head coach when Belichick leaves. He went in there with a terrible roster. He overperformed expectations in reality of what he should have done. And now we're going to be setting him up for success with all this cap room and these picks and everything. Let's see what can happen. Why would you?
Robert Kraft thinks it's going to take too long. He wants to win faster.
Why would you hire him in the first place if you weren't prepared for this outcome? And the answer to me, and it still isn't a good answer, is that Mike Vrabel's out there, baby. We can go out there and get Vrabes, get the white boy. Because that is an argument that a lot of people have made is another black coach gets fired after one.
Yeah, okay. So there has been a lot of GMs, black coaches that have gotten hammered this year. So it's not a great look at all by any means. And the Rooney Rule is once again in the headlines because we got people being called in for interviews when we know that there's no chance that they're going to get fucking hired, which is one of the really terrible things about the Rooney Rule. I love the idea of getting more minorities involved in the game, but the Rooney Rule is so out of date that they've just circumvented it the way they do these processes.
Yep. But the Patriots, they had the interview with Pep Hamilton from or Pep Hamilton and Byron Leftwich today for their head coaching positions.
And we're almost certain they're going to hire Vrabel.
As of tomorrow, they can hire Vrabel now. They have completed the necessities for the Rooney Rule. Vrabel's contract is over with your Browns. But this is the thing, as I say, like, oh, Vrabel's available. Well, guess what? Vrabel was available last year as well.
It's true.
They could have gotten Vrabel last year. But I feel like they felt maybe forced into a corner saying, like, hey, we groomed this guy for years and now we're just not going to give it to him. But that's not the way you run a franchise. Like, it's not. It would be that, and the more I think about it, that sort of stupid logic is the same sort of stupid logic of why you would fire him this year. Because I think that Jerome Mayo has a chance to be a good coach. I don't think that he's been holding that offense back. That offense was held back by the roster. If anything, they overperformed. I didn't expect Drake May to come out this year and look this good. I sure as hell didn't look for Joe Milton to come out in this game and look that good. But
they got blown out so many times. That is a hard sell to a locker room, man.
Yeah, but the amount of players and coaches and stuff like that have come out and have basically trashed the organization for making this move right now.
Yeah. Former players for sure.
It's not a great look. And former head coaches being like, what fucking point was there? Because you might have given this guy his only shot and taken it away before he ever got a chance to start. We talked about this on our last show. It's tough. Sometimes you have to make those decisions. Like, if ultimately you know what needs to be done, it's better to do it now than later. And I get that. But I think that they did not give him enough runway to show what he could have done there with a at least average NFL roster. We don't know. We might not ever know. It'll be interesting to see where Jerome Mayo goes from here. I don't expect him to get looked at for a head coaching job this cycle. But he definitely will
could be a DC.
Definitely could end up on a team this coming season. Bills, though, heading into playoffs, probably made the right move there. Rest their guys, and make sure that they can have the best opportunity to take on the Broncos, who are, as a 7 seed, they can be a very tough 7 seed. That's a good defense, man.
Very good defense. Bo Nix played well. Another guy that we were kind of down on in the draft process really kind of came out and proved that he was awesome. Now, he did earn the Bo Nix Award name by having one of the worst statistical halves I've ever fucking seen from a quarterback. But
very close to a guy near and dear to both of our hearts, Spurgeon Wynn.
Yeah, very close. Dude, it was so bad. But you know what? Turned around, has played really good fucking football. Broncos would be a tough out. I'd be interested to see what happens. Broncos, Vikings, Super Bowl. How's divided over there with you?
Oh, I wouldn't be that divided. I would overbear him. Yeah, I would overbear. Funny story about Spurgeon Wynn. Now I bring it up. That was actually one of me being a little dirty bastard kid. When I was growing up, one of the comebacks that I always had to people when I was getting in arguments, it was like, well, at least Spurgeon Wynn didn't fuck my mom to be. Like, that was a burn for me back in the day.
Right.
That's a deep cut for people. If you don't know who Spurgeon Wynn is, go ahead and hit the old Google machine, see who he is. But yeah, like, just to random buddies, I'd be like, Spurgeon Wynn fucks your mom. It's an embarrassment.
All right.
Yeah.
I respect it.
Yeah. Shitty, dumb me, but highfalutin for, basically like a 10-year-old.
There you go.
Next game, we got the Giants and Eagles. Eagles take care of business despite playing backups. Tanner McKee looked pretty decent. Keep in mind who he's going against, but the Eagles get the win here, 20-13 over the Giants. Giants secure the number 3 overall pick, which puts them in a predicament because they need a quarterback. And very possibly the 2 teams in front of them are going to be taking the top 2 quarterbacks. You also have a team like the Raiders who might be aggressive to go get a quarterback. You have 4 teams essentially right now that really need a quarterback.
We could fleece somebody.
But the biggest thing here is Tanner McKee plays this game, does not look bad at all. He looks pretty damn good going up against a Giants team that is obviously beat up, bruised, and getting that third overall pick. But the quarterback situation in Philly is not set. Kenny Pickett having some rib injuries didn't necessarily
The
look
guy, the
fantastic.
fucking sniper. The sniper got him, bro.
Yes. And as of right now, Jalen Hurts has not cleared concussion protocol from weeks prior. That is a big deal when it comes to this game here in the NFC, Packers versus Eagles. Eagles playing at home is going to be a big benefit to them. Eagles have a better roster than this Packers team as well. But the great equalizer here is who ends up playing up at quarterback for the Eagles. Tanner McKee, again, he looked good. If I had to choose between McKee or Pickett, I'm picking McKee right now. He looked pretty damn good in this game with backups going up against guys who are fringe starters, not so good, so on and so forth. It's a different story.
In the NFL, but they're the Giants. I mean, but they're starters in the NFL.
That is a far shy difference between going up against a Packers team in a playoff game. That is a sort of pressure that Tanner McKee might not be ready for. To be
correct.
That could absolutely cripple this Eagles team. I'm sure that they are trying to do whatever fucking rejuvenation they can on Jalen Hurts to get him ready for this game. But we might be looking at Tanner McKee. It's going to play a big role in how we bet this game.
Yeah. Thank God we don't bet this game until later on this week. We're only doing the Saturday games tonight. Big move there. A lot of implications with the Eagles going forward in their health. Giants need to get a quarterback going into next year. But I'm ready to move on to the next game. We had the Saints and the Bucks in a game that mattered. Spencer Rattler went out, had a pretty decent showing as starting quarterback for the Saints, but Baker and the Bucks do just enough to get the dub, not enough to cover. Kind of felt like that was the way it was going to go. Bucks kind of riding a nice little wave, though. Big team win, big team moment. Mike Evans gets his 1,000 yards for the 11th straight year, and everybody goes batshit crazy for it, which I love. Any thoughts on this game or these teams going forward?
Yeah, part of it is, it's a divisional matchup. The Saints and Bucks playing a little bit closer there, trying to play spoiler to the Bucks are the Saints. And maybe that's why the game was a little bit closer, wasn't decided till more towards the end. But still, I want to see more out of the Bucks in this game. It makes me a little bit worried. They're playing at home, but they're going up against a Commanders team that's very dangerous right now. They played each other in week 1. They're two different teams, both of them.
Oh yeah,
it makes that wild card game very scary to not have put a dick stamp on the fucking Saints in this one. But hey, congrats to the Bucks. You are in. You're the best team out of the NFC South, and I don't say that facetiously. Like, it's not just your record. I do think that you are the best team out there. Congrats to that Bucks team. But it's time to turn it on. You can't be having games like you just had versus the Saints there. And congrats to Mike Evans. Super happy to see that they went out there, had the balls to not kneel it, but to throw him that pass and get him the yardage. Love to see it. Great team moment.
Hell yeah. That's a code thing that I'm sure the ownership was pumped to give Mike get the 1,000 yards. I don't think they care about the bonuses that go along with Mike Evans. He deserved that shit that they want Mike to get, because now tied with Jerry Rice for the most 1,000-yard seasons to start a career, I believe, at 11.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would be an insane thing to see him go 12 and set the record next year.
For sure. And I love the memes out there. Jerry Jones sits Cooper Rush for $500K, but the Bucks, with a playoff game on the line, go ball out for their boy Mike Evans to get him more money in the record. Shows you the disparity between two franchises there. We'll move on to the next game here. Kansas City Chiefs versus the Broncos, and Chiefs put up a goose egg with Carson Wentz. Bo Nix looks pretty good. 38-0 in this one. Broncos secure themselves a spot in the playoffs.
This game means almost nothing to me. The Chiefs didn't give a fuck. They were just there collecting a paycheck.
Yep.
And the Broncos had to win. They went out and played their guys. And they could tell that the other side just was there collecting a fucking paycheck. 38-0. Like, there's nothing much to say. It'll be great to see both of these teams in the playoffs and see what they can do from there. I got shit else to say about this game. There was pointless game.
Absolutely. Next, Chargers Raiders. Chargers win 34-20 in Las Vegas. Chargers moving on into the playoffs as the 5 seed versus the Texans. And the Raiders, they move on as well from their head coach.
Yeah.
Anthony Pierce is let go today. This one, I think the writing was generally on the wall. And I'm okay with it. Pierce obviously had his run last season. The players fought to have him in there, but I don't think it can be overlooked. The fact that Tom Brady is part of that organization now. He is being extremely involved with all these processes. I'm sure that he's involved with moving on from the head coach. I assume that he is, well, I know it's been said he's going to be a part of the interviews and stuff like that for the potential future head coaches. He's probably going to be looking for a guy that players want to play for, but also has the smarts that he can agree with, and trying to pair them with a quarterback as well. Um, while it is, tough to see Antonio Pierce leave, because I do like him and he will go out there and get another job as well. I think that the Raiders should be hopeful for what this means, what Tom Brady being a part of that organization means, because the future could definitely be brighter here for them if they're able to hit on a good coach and find that quarterback. And this is a good path forward to that.
So I feel very similar to the way I felt about the Patriots situation. Like, it sucks for Antonio Pierce. I think he's a really good coach. But when you are going to be looking for a young quarterback, which I assume that the Raiders are going to try to find a way to do, obviously they worked themselves out of that position, but they're gonna try to make a trade. There's going to at least be phone calls, a lot of fucking phone calls happening over the next couple of months. I think they're probably going to go try to find an offensive head coach that meshes with Tom Brady and what he thinks is a good idea, and they'll go out and try to find a fucking quarterback at some point. Probably some 5th round dickhead from Ball State that will go on to be the greatest quarterback ever.
Or Jackson Dart.
So there's a lot of things that are going to happen. It sucks for Antonio Pierce, but it also kind of makes sense with the direction that the organization is going.
Now, Mike, I don't know what you mean by whose bracket looks most correct. You'll have to define that more. Otherwise, if you win, you can have this dick, like I said, and was somehow deleted.
Yeah, what the hell?
Anyways, next game up, Seahawks Rams. Seahawks get the win here, kind of expected. Rams sitting a bunch of their starters. Jimmy Garoppolo goes out there and starts. Either way, the Rams are playing my Vikings here in wild card weekend. Seahawks get the win, and they fire their offensive coordinator, I believe, at the end of this game.
So the Seahawks going into the offseason, 10-7 record, don't make the playoffs. Rams didn't give a shit about this game. They were already locked in. Jimmy G, though, goes out there, puts some good reps on tape. I mean, you don't love the pick, but goes out there, throws for quite a bit of yards. Maybe he lashes on somewhere else. Sean McVay's kind of known for revitalizing some of those guys' career. And then the Seahawks, man, they're going to have to address the quarterback position at some point here in the near future as well. I don't know if Geno is a guy that's going to be able to get them over the hump. But obviously they know that there's something wrong with their offense. Offensive coordinator out. A lot of turnover. Their offense is getting old. Obviously you got JSN there at the receivers, but DK Metcalf getting up there in years. Obviously we know that Tyler Lockett's up there as well. Running back position, they got some guys that we like, but they're not consistent, or they're constantly banged up in the terms of Kenneth Walker. So, I mean, I don't know how you can be upset about a 10-7 year, but obviously it wasn't good enough for what their organization wanted or where they thought they could go, so they make the change on offense. We'll see who they bring in the offseason.
Yep. And old Spicy Mike Aarons Lineman Lounge did post a bracket. Beginning of the show, we kind of talked about what we're doing with the bracket. I honestly haven't looked at what people have posted yet
No, we got until
because
Saturday.
you got to wait until Saturday before those first games start to find out who's got what bracket and who just kind of looks good. We're going to go from there. But obviously, if you didn't tune in to the beginning of the show, Mike, scroll back there, check it out. We talk about what we're going to do with the bracket challenge. And also, the social medias are going to be updated with exactly what to do with those brackets in order to possibly get yourself a W and a jersey from the Lineman Lounge. Next, Miami Dolphins, New York Jets, and sure enough, Jets play spoiler to that Dolphins team. But the Dolphins kind of are spoiling themselves here. Tyreek Hill doesn't want to come back in and play. Comments after the game about I'm out, essentially. Apparently, things have been fixed after meetings today, and there is an intention to trade him. But I think that ship has probably already left port here, man. When you make actions like that, you're going to get that Stephon Diggs treatment. You're going to say, thank you for your service. You're out the door. We're going to see what you can get for you. Because Tyreek Hill is older as well. He did not have as good of a season this year, partially because of the quarterback play, partially. But when Tua was back in there, it wasn't like he was gangbusters again. And a desperate team is going to be willing to go out there and probably pay a premium to go get a guy like Tyreek Hill. So personally, I think that it is probably time for the Dolphins to go ahead and move on. They have a lot of questions to figure out here. They aren't great with the cap right now. Guys like Bradley Chubb, easy cap cut this offseason, constantly injured. It was a tough year. It's going to be a tough year when you lose your quarterback and how important your quarterback is to your franchise. So getting to 8-9, decent, but they're going to have to reset and come back next year and see what they can do to try to turn things around. Otherwise, it might be he might be on the chopping block.
Mike McDaniel's coming back though, so they're going to still have a very similar style of offense. I don't know if Jalen Waddle is capable of taking over the role that Tyreek was running. Here for the Jets, man. Aaron Rodgers goes out, gets his 500th touchdown pass. Congratulations to Aaron Rodgers. Exactly. I kind of figured that was going to be the response. But this is probably the last time we've seen Aaron Rodgers in a Jets jersey, right? Possibly
I would hope
so. Jersey?
I would absolutely hope so. I mean, if that's going to be one of the biggest questions for this Jets team with their head coach vacancy, for any head coach that gets interviewed, what do we do with the Aaron Rodgers situation? Like, they're going to have to. I mean, they also are looking at GMs as well. So that's going to be the biggest question. Those guys is how would you proceed forward with this? I think that any coach that says, well, we can run with Aaron Rodgers and see what we can get out of him a little bit further, they need to be probably X'd off of the list. If we're just looking purely statistical and the financials already involved in Rodgers and you didn't have to know about any of his other antics or anything like that, or his attempts to try to control the team, I could see him staying there as a bridge for a young quarterback. But who's the young quarterback that you're going to get? The Jets aren't in a position to get one. So it's a tough spot for the Jets. The Jets are just kind of fucked, for lack of a better term here, because you got Tyrod Taylor, and I would feel better about running with him for a while. But yeah, I would move on from Aaron. Got to cut the cancer out to try to get healthy there.
I agree, man. Aaron's got to go. I don't know if anybody is going to be looking to bring Aaron in. I know that neither one of the next two teams we're going to talk about are going to be doing that. 49ers finish out their season. Same thing with the Cardinals. 49ers get their asses beat by the Cardinals, and this is a game that was completely inconsequential. Josh Dobbs starts for the 49ers, plays average. Kyler Murray goes out there, throws 4 touchdowns, looks like superhuman heading into the offseason. So he gives Cardinals fans something to be excited about, even though they're probably going to be middling again next year because Kyler will not play consistently. Kind of the script that we expected.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of says it best. Figuring out what the 49ers do with this roster in the offseason, I think, is the most interesting part of these two teams because they've got a lot of soul searching to do with how they want to split up their cap, who they want to pay money to. Ayuk playing on that on the franchise tag, I believe. They didn't actually get a contract done with him, correct?
They did, yeah.
Did.
Same fucking contract they offered him before the.
Either way, it's going to be tough for them to figure out what to do, who to pay,
Debo's
who to
probably
keep.
gone.
It's very possible. Very possible. Guys like Kyle Juszczyk, he's on the last year. Like, there's some talent on this team that might not be there anymore just because of business decisions. That's a tough thing to look at. All righty. That takes us to our last game, Sunday Night Football. My Vikings versus the Lions. Lions get the best of us here, 31-9. They were able to tag on more points when the team was already kind of down, reeling. Look, the Vikings through the first half, their defense played this Lions team pretty damn good. We got turnovers. We were able to get into the red zone. But 4 trips to the red zone and you don't come away with touchdowns. It's an execution problem. Sam Darnold did not look fantastic in this game. He was throwing high, and I've seen that consistently through this year when he seems to be either a little bit rattled or jazzed or hyped up or whatever. His miss is high, sailing high. And I'd rather have that be in the end zone than in the middle of the field. Either way, there's wide open receivers that he missed. Addison was open on one of those overthrows where
Jefferson
he could have
twice in the end zone.
Yeah. So this game could have been a lot different had that execution been different. And I think that's the biggest thing here is apart from the refs fucking up some calls, such as a safety.
That safety should have been a fucking safety.
Those are game-changing type of momentum-changing plays. They affect teams like the Lions less because of the coach and the mentality that the team has, but still they matter. They make offensive play callers call plays different. They make defenses play different. The fact that we didn't score touchdowns while in the red zone, going forward on 4th and not getting anything out of it, and having that safety not go our way, it really just continually pushed the team down into a hole that realistically by halftime, the score should probably not have been as close as it was, except for the fact that Brian Flores was doing a good job of that defense initially. But after that, us not being able to get those points, the dam kind of broke. Jahmyr Gibbs' dam kind of broke because damn did he go off. He had himself a hell of a day. Bunch of touchdowns. Lions are a good team. They're going to be getting healthier. David Montgomery is expected to play in this divisional round. They're going to continue to try to load this team. They do get the bye. There's still rumors about Calais Campbell possibly being released off of his contract from the Dolphins. He would be a huge get for this team to bring in there to help bolster that interior. Do I think the Lions are still gettable? Yes. I think that a lot of this, at least through that first half, was the Vikings not playing how they should have. But the Lions, I'm no doubt are going to say that they're a bad team or anything. They're a very good team. They're dangerous. They're the team to go after here in the NFC right now.
Yeah, I think they're the team to beat, man. That was a hard-hitting game. The motherfuckers were smacking each other all through the first half. I was like, this is playing exactly what I thought it was. It was like a fucking week one. Dudes just hitting.
I about fucking creamed my pants when Van Ginkel fucking laid Jahmyr Gibbs out.
I'm sure you
That
did.
was the hit of the year. I fucking lost it. Hannah was looking at me like, what is wrong with you? The dog thought she was in trouble. Cats went scrambling because I was like, holy fuck! Because he looked like he killed Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
I thought that Jahmyr Gibbs might not play the rest of this game because of that hit initially. I was like, he laid the fucking lumber.
That's that Reggie Bush fold in half hit.
Yeah, that got me going. Also, Van Ginkel dropped an interception that he could have potentially returned for another touchdown on that same sort of, he just reads the screenplay correctly and jumps it. So that would have been great as well. I don't know if you've seen the videos, but Van Ginkel the next day sitting at home with his family and his 3-year-old is like, you needed to catch the ball. Like the 3-year-old was critiquing his game. It's cute.
I did not see that. No.
It's worth the watch. But yeah, sad that my Vikings lost. Of course, I would have loved to have had that 1 seed. I would have. It's not about the 1 seed to me. It's about that bye, right? Yeah. Bye and home field advantage. To not have that, we have a very tough road ahead of us now. But again, I would rather us have this lost now. Look, teams don't go on super, super long win streaks, right? We're at 9 games. The chances of that fizzling out at some point sooner than later was high. Get the loss out of the way now. Let's go ahead and put together another win streak and take it all the way.
Now, you guys end up as the 5 seed. Fucking tough road for you guys to go, man. going to LA, and then with a win there, depending on what shakes out, I mean, you guys could be looking at heading back to the Lions.
Yeah, if both the Bucks and Eagles win and the Vikings, we will be heading back to Detroit.
Yeah, I mean,
As
so
we
if it goes chalk here and you guys win, game 3
Hey.
with Detroit is going to be crazy.
Like Dan Campbell said, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Hey,
We'll see.
He knows.
I mean, to me, that I respect Dan Campbell even more because obviously he's showing respect to my team and how good they are. I love that. Yeah, tough loss.
Nice. Must be nice to have a team that you can be excited about in the playoffs. Hey, you know what? Draft season here, baby. Draft season's here.
Draft season is here, man.
Oh, yeah, by the way, also basketball season. Go Cavs.
All righty. So with these playoff games, did you want to go over any of them tonight, or did you want to save this all for a Friday night show?
Yeah, let's save this for the Friday night. So normally we go Sunday morning. We're going to go Friday night. Obviously, we got some family things going on that are going to take precedence over this. So instead of our normal Sunday morning show, we're going to shoot for a Friday night, give you all the bets for the entire weekend on that Friday night for Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then we'll regroup, come back Tuesday that next week, and then hop back into our normal schedule. So, brother, I'm good. We can save all of the games for Saturday night. We got about an hour and 15 minutes in, got all the games covered, talked to some coaches, talked a bunch of potential things that are going to happen with these teams. So I think we wrap it up, man.
All righty. Cool. Well, look, it has been a fun NFL season. It's been a wild NFL season. We're looking at a pretty fucking good off season coming up here because, again, look, it's drama. Tons of head coach firings, tons of open quarterback positions, not too many quarterbacks to go after.
No.
It's going to be really fun to watch and see how these teams scramble to construct rosters. I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Me too. I'm glad. Well, I'm not glad that my team is in a position where we can kind of choose our own fate, but it is nice to have that option, especially when you need a quarterback and as many things as we do. But with that, man, hey, great year, great season. Let's fuck the playoffs up. Let's make some money for the people throughout the playoffs and have a good time doing it. But thank you, brother. I know that this was a tougher year for you gambling. We made it through it. But you know what? I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed how difficult it was each week because some of these fucking games were impossible to call.
Yeah.
Vegas doesn't do us any favors.
Not easy. I mean, if they were doing us favors, they wouldn't be Vegas.
No, that's true. They wouldn't have them $1 million chandeliers. But guys, this is the Lineman Lounge. I'm Mike. That's Evo. If you want to interact with our show, you can go to any one of the places below: X, Facebook, TikTok, the call line, and YouTube page. If you guys would not mind, please stop by our YouTube page, like, share, and subscribe. I don't hate that, but I don't love that either, much like I don't love all the other retread quarterbacks. But with that, we're going to get the fuck out of here. Evo, give the people one last word before we see them again on Friday night.
Happy Super Wildcard Weekend, everybody.
Super Wildcard Weekend. Guys, I'm Mike. That's Evo. This is the Lineman Lounge. We're getting the fuck out of here.